Peter here, aka Peter Freakout 10, bringing you guys another episode of the Movie Review Show with the good movies always reviewed. Okay, back into our movie review, and it's time to start decking the halls with some Christmas movies. Alright, now before I start, I just want to say, if my voice sounds a little muffled, that's because of the fact that I've been going through a cold the past few days, and it really sucks. Honestly, the first day I started getting it, it was really horrible. Not as bad as... It was definitely worse than it is now, I should say. But right now, it's getting better. And honestly, at first, I wasn't going to do any reviews because of the cold. But I figured since it's Christmas, I'm not going to let you guys down, and I'm going to do these reviews. I'm still going to go through with them. I've already watched a few, plan on watching more, and definitely plan on getting to review those, because my cold's like 80% better, and even though it's not 100%, it's still in a good place. But anyway, on to the review. Now, in today's episode, I figured we start off with adding a little bit of blood to Christmas. Not literally, figuratively. And by that, I mean, I thought we'd start off with being as cuddly as a cactus. Because today we're looking at a Christmas horror movie and stepping away from the put a little love in your heart angle that I usually go with. And as I was looking through my DVD collection, I was wondering, where do I start? Because there's so many to choose from, and some of the other ones I'll talk about in the future. But I figured, why not go back to the start and see where it all started? Because today, we're looking at a film that not only started that whole angle of like horror movies being set around holidays, but it was also a very influential film in horror movies in general. And what film is that, you may ask? That film is none other than Black Christmas. Now, for those wondering, this is the special edition by a company called Critical Mass Releasing Inc. And it's a very good edition, and I have to be honest, this is a great edition of Black Christmas. If you guys want to see Black Christmas, highly recommend this DVD. You get so many features, over 2 hours of new bonus material. It's actually supervised by Uberfan Dan Duffin, who created the It'sMeBilly.com website. And it's digitally remastered, anthropomorphic, and newly created 5.1 surround stereo audio. Definitely nice. It looks great on my TV, even though it still has that grainy sort of feel to it. It's definitely easy to see why, because this is a 70s movie, and it's obvious that they didn't have the technology to make it nice up to standards with the DVDs out now. But it definitely looks better than the VHS release. Granted, I love VHS, but at the time, I'd say VHS wasn't up to par with the technology that would get in the later 80s and the 90s and going into the 2000s. But this was, granted, I love the VHS tapes that I get. I still am going to collect them, but it's just in the early 80s, that's when I feel VHS was at a low in its quality. Definitely not as good as it was in the late 80s and 90s and early 2000s. So, yeah, but definitely nice to see this get the remaster. You get 2 original scenes with a new vocal soundtrack that were recently uncovered. You get a 12 Days of Black Christmas, an all-new documentary featuring current interviews with Art Hindle, Doug McGrath, and Lynn Griffin, among others. Separate interview segments with Olivia Hussey and Margot Kidder, 2 of the actresses in the film who I'll get to. Midnight Screen Q&A session with John Saxon, Bob Clark, and Carl Zitter, and the animated menus. Not much to say there, but definitely a good DVD to have. If you want to see Black Christmas, definitely check out this DVD. Definitely the best version to watch this film in, but anyway. Getting into the film, this was a film made back in 1974, and this is actually directed by, you are not going to believe this, Bob Clark. If that name sounds familiar to anybody, you guys would know that Bob Clark directed the all-time classic, A Christmas Story, which a lot of people consider to be one of the greatest Christmas films of all time. Granted, I like it. I do think it's a little bit overrated. I mean, I used to love it when I was a kid, but I've grown up to watch other Christmas movies I've adored, like Home Alone, Die Hard, Gremlins. And I just figured, you know what, screw that. I got so many other films I like. Granted, I know a lot of people like the film, and that's fine. It's just not my cup of tea like it used to be. I met a few people who are like that too, but this was like his earliest film. This was like the film that started his career, and after he did this, he would go on to direct not only A Christmas Story, but he also directed Porky's, which I haven't seen. I've heard some pretty mixed stuff about it. Rhinestone with Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton, I think, which Stallone regrets to this day. And of course, Baby Geniuses. That was a bad movie. I haven't seen it, but from what I've seen, it looks bad. But what is there to say about Black Christmas? What is there to say except how much of a phenomenon this film was? Because, as I said, when this movie came out, it provided a huge base for the horror movie genre. A base of plans, I should say. Because, remember when I said how Halloween was the first slasher film to really, like, set the ground standards for all of, like, the slasher movie tropes and whatnot? Technically, that's true, but this came first, and this also did that. Granted, a lot of films before did that particular angle, but this is the one that really a lot of people recognized. This is the one that a lot of people were like, Black Christmas was the one that started it. It was that. This is the film that really kickstarted the slasher genre. And it's the film that really made the slasher genre what it is today. Because without this film, we wouldn't have Halloween, we wouldn't have Nightmare on Elm Street, we wouldn't have Friday the 13th. All of those slasher films that we've come to love, we wouldn't have now if it weren't for this film. Or Halloween, or even that one Dario Argento movie, A Bucket of Blood, or something else, I forget. But yeah. And when this film came out, it had a budget of $620,000, so it was a pretty low budget for the time. And with the box office, it opened to $4 million. Granted, that didn't seem much, but at the time, that seemed like a hit. And I think the main reason why it didn't make much more was because at the time, it opened alongside Tobe Hooper's Monster, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as that was going through the controversy. Which is probably another reason why this movie remains forgotten. So, yeah. However, as much as the little hit, or sleeper hit, I should say, that it had very mixed reception. Because critics were appalled by the level of violence, which when you compare today's films like Ghost Ship or the director's cut of My Blade Valentine, Virus, Dreamcatcher, among others, even Pieces for that matter, this film was like a child's daycare center when compared to those films. But getting into all that later, but critics applaud the performances, they applaud the way it was filmed, they just didn't like the level of violence. What was it that they said? Among other stuff, but over the years, this film has managed to gain a cult following and has gone on to become a legendary horror film in the slasher genre. And so many people have jumped on the bandwagon and have said how much of a great slasher film this is and why it kickstarted the slasher genre. And with all of that being said, with all the people who have said that about this film, in my opinion, I agree 100%. I love this movie. I really do. And I have to be honest, this is honestly, to me, one of the best Christmas horror films of all time. In the top 3, I should say. And it's definitely one of these films that, for me, has now become a cult classic. In fact, with how popular that this film was, I want to say this first. There was originally supposed to be a sequel. I don't know if this is a rumor or not, but there was originally supposed to be a sequel. And Bob Clark had this idea where he was going to say, I'm going to do a sequel where the killer himself gets caught, and he gets taken to an insane asylum, but he manages to escape, and he comes back to the town on Halloween and starts terrorizing the town. Does that sound familiar? John Carpenter's Halloween. However, I think around that time, John Carpenter, liked this film so much that he was like, can I do this film and make it my own? And he said, sure. So he went ahead and did, and the rest is history. And ultimately, I think that goes to show the phenomenon that this film was. I think it really goes to show how much of an impact that this film left. And I'm going to say this right now. I don't know if I said this already or not. I'm also in train of thoughts and I did a stupid cold, but this is to me one of the creepiest movies I've ever seen, and I think it's one of the creepiest slasher films I've ever seen. I remember I saw this in my old house, which I don't know what that was, probably my brother, but I remember I saw this in my old house. I saw it late at night. This film freaked me the heck out. It literally did. I was churning in my seat. I wasn't scared like I was hiding under the blanket scared. I was scared in the sense that it was so moody and so like, what's the word? And so nail-biting that it just overall made the experience a lot more scary. And I watched this late at night. And granted, I slept well that night, because usually when I go to bed after watching a horror movie, I actually forget about everything, whereas a lot of people who watch horror movies tend to get scared, and like when they go to bed, they actually get scared. Me personally, I always felt the opposite, because usually when I go to bed, I tend to forget everything that's happened in my day. And granted, that happened with this film. I went to bed and just forgot everything. But after watching it and heading to bed, I actually got creeped out. I was checking the halls and whatnot, and it just was one of those films that really stuck with me. And it's easy to see why I felt it was like that for a lot of people. And I think this tagline says it best. If this film doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight. Well, my skin is on too tight with a lot of horror films I watch. If it was on too tight when watching this, then that's saying a lot. We dare you to watch it alone. That's what it says on the back. And I did. I completed that. But anyway. Again, I love this movie, and I'll get into why later. But with the cast, you actually have Olivia Hussey, who plays the main girl in this. For those who don't know, Olivia Hussey at the time did Romeo and Juliet, which I think needs no introduction. It's a great movie. She was also in Stephen King's It. She was Bill's wife in the adult scenes. She was also in Psycho 4, which I haven't seen. You also have Margot Kidder in a young role, who was in the Amityville Horror. She was also in the Superman films with Christopher Reeve. You have John Saxon in a young role, who would go on to be in A Nightmare on Elm Street. He was in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, where he gets killed. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. He was also in Beverly Hills Cop 3. He likes being in the threes. And he had a small role in From Dusk Till Dawn. He was the guy on the TV warning George Clooney, the Gecko Brothers, and whatnot. You also have Andrea Martin here. And for those who don't know, Andrea Martin was actually Miss Fowl on Jimmy Neutron. She was also in the anime version of David Copperfield. She was the aunt. Sorry about that. The camera moved. Because I'm accidentally, my feet are under the thing and I'm pulling the stand towards me by mistake. So, yeah. But you also have Peter Smith. Not Peter Smith, that's the name of the character. Cara Delilah from 2001 Space Odyssey. And you also have Bob Clark as Billy Shadow, and Nick Mancuso actually does his voice. And for those who don't know, Nick Mancuso was actually in Rapid Fire with Brandon Lee. He was also in Under Siege 1 and 2, which I gotta see those films. But yeah, I love this movie, and I definitely think it's a must-see for anybody who loves Christmas horror. It's a great movie to watch at a late night with some milk and cookies and eggnog and popcorn and get freaked out. And it's definitely one that has now become, for me, a horror movie I'm going to watch every year on Christmas. So, yeah. But anyway, getting all that later. But the basic plot of the film is basically this. We see this sorority house with all these girls. The main one, we meet Jess, played by Olivia Hussey, who is with her friends, Barbara, is that her name? Yeah, Barbara, played by Margot Kidder, Phil, played by Andrea Martin, and they're getting ready to go home for Christmas. And basically, as that's going on, one night they're having this party, And we see this heavy breathing killer who throughout the film calls himself Billy, set up shop in the attic at the beginning of the film. There's literally no build up. He's just there. He's just, you see him, you see the POV shot, he's heavy breathing, and you see him climb up into the attic with really no warning that he's even coming. And so he sets up shop there, and that same night, they start getting phone calls from him, one of which sounds like his mother is beating him or something, or a mother's beating a guy. And it gets even weirder when the next day they find out one of the girls has gone missing and her father has arrived to pick her up. And so they meet up with this lieutenant named Kenneth, played by John Saxon, who agrees to help them on the hunt and find her, and as well as find this little girl who has gone missing. So they set out, and Billy, who is now free control of the house, gets out and starts killing people in the house. And so now it's up to Lieutenant Kenneth to figure out what exactly is going on and who this killer is and bring him to justice. Will Lieutenant Kenneth be able to stop this, or will a red Christmas finally come true for everybody, and will they be able to see what a red Christmas results in? That's the best I can do. Really is the best I can do. Just exiting out of something. But anyway, Black Christmas is such a great movie. Granted, when you look at it today, it really is a slasher movie that we've seen a bajillion times, whereas back then it had a different impact. But to me personally, I feel it's a strong, effective horror movie because Bob Clark's direction really helps with the film. It really does, because with this film, like, he's able to really create a film that, while it's scary, it has a subtle hint of comedy to it. And we're going to look at both angles. The angle with the comedy, I think, really works with the film, and I think it really distinguishes the character, which is really something that when you look at a few slasher films, they really tend to just throw in there as a quick little gag, because they're like, hey, you know what? If we want to entertain the audience while waiting for something, let's just have a quick round of comedy thrown in there, and just that. But here I think it tells a lot about the characters, and I think Bob Clark does a really good job with adding that. And with this, he would later go on to do Porky's. He would later become the king of comedy and work his way up the food chain. So, yeah. But some of the jokes I really enjoy in the film, most of them from Margot Kidder, who I'll talk about. I like the old lady of the house who is hiding, like, beer everywhere. Like, she hides in the toilet one time and just takes it out and is, like, drinking it. Or she's, like, brushing her teeth and she drinks it and spits it out. Like, those scenes I thought were pretty funny. Or the part where they give her, like, that dress and she's like, what is it? She's like nice about it. Those parts I thought well. But besides the comedy elements, which work really well with the film and really talk a lot about the characters, and I say that because I feel comedy can say a lot about a character. I really feel like comedy has the ability to say, like, yeah, this character jokes about this, so that could say something about this particular character. And I really feel like that works a lot with the particular character, because if you're going to have a character, at least have a part in it where, at least have tell us what his personality is through the comedy. And I think that film understood that and went ahead with it. But when it gets to the horror, boy, does it get scary. Because just how the film opens with that song, Silent Night, Holy Night, which after watching this film, that song has stuck in my head ever since. And just how the film opens with Billy climbing up into the attic, and we literally get no build-up. There's literally nothing that says anything. There's more of a sense of mystery about the killer. And just how it opens up, you see him looking out the window with all those girls, and he literally climbs up into the attic, and all you hear is that heavy breathing, which has stuck in my head ever since I saw this film. And just how the camera, and I think the film makes great use of that. I think it makes great use of the mystery. I think it makes great use of the fact that you don't know much about the killer, and I think it works to the film's advantage. Again, my nose is sniffling, but I think it works to the film's advantage. I think it creates a great sense of mystery. I think the POV shots are really creepy with the killer. When you see him climbing up there, there's other moments when he gets mad, you just hear him screaming as he's pushing stuff over in the attic. Those scenes are like so creepy, especially the scenes where pretty much a death is about to happen and it's like filmed from his point of view. I think Bob Clark did such a great job filming, and with the low budget, I think it was used wisely in the film, and I think it really works with it. And just by the shooting, the scenes, like how the shots are, the high angles that he chose, like it really works with the film, and I think it really creates a creepy atmosphere that I really appreciate that Bob Clark went for. So the directing, I think, is really well done. The tone, I think, really works with the film. And while the story isn't anything new, it definitely works with the film, and I think Bob Clark's twist on it, I think, really works with it. So, yeah. But the acting of this film, I think, is also top-notch. And I love the fact that with this film, one thing I gotta say is the fact that the film itself doesn't feel like it relies on too heavy on the slasher cliches. Granted, this was the first film to really use that. But being that it's the first, it doesn't have the tropes in it. It really doesn't. The characters are more smarter. They're more distinguished themselves a lot more. And I think they really make them out to be stronger characters. For example, the main character, Jess, played by Olivia Hussey, who's this girl in the house who's going through a rough time with her boyfriend, and we find out that she's pregnant and wants an abortion because she doesn't feel like she can take care of the baby. You also get the idea that her boyfriend is like this abusive guy, and believe me, he is really abusive. Peter, played by Keir Dalala, who does a great job playing the guy. Like, you see him one time at this piano recital, and he goes mad. I guess you see him go mad and cause chaos and whatnot. I think it really makes her out to be a stronger character because she's standing up for herself. She's like, this is how it's going to be. It's going to be like this. And I'm not going to let you dictate what I'm going to do. I really wish we had more characters like this. I really think it would really help. I think it really helped the film and did something different with it. So, yeah. So, definitely love that angle. I definitely love how they portrayed her as the strong individual. Even when she finds out what's going on, she's really smart about it. And even at the end, what she does, you really feel for her. You really feel sorry about what she's going through. Again, I gotta itch my nose. I don't know why. I don't know why I gotta do that. But yeah, I definitely love that about her character. I thought she did it really well. I thought she did a good job performance-wise. I think she stood out among the cast. Definitely how she was written, I thought she did it really well. And just the angle that they took with her character, I think, really made her a lot stronger. And it's interesting to see a horror film deal with the angle of abortion and really try to use that to show her character be stronger. So, yeah, definitely really enjoyed that about her. You also get Margot Kidder in the film as Barbara, who, of course, Margot Kidder will go on to be this crazy woman. And so, she's pretty much portrayed that in this film. She's like this drinker. She's like the one who's like, as I said, the drinker. She's the fast talker. She's pretty much Annie from Halloween. And pretty much at some point you see her drinking and making jokes. Like the one point when she's at the police station, she's like mad and she's like, "What's the street number of your house?" And I got it right here. I want to see because I want to. Can you give me the number of the sorority house? Yeah, sure. It's Fellatio 20880. Fellatio. It's a new exchange. F.E. And the sergeant's like, "That's a new one on me. How do you spell it?" So yeah, there. But I thought she had a lot of funny scenes. I also love the part where she's talking about the turtles and how like they have sex for long periods of times. And I just thought she had a lot to the film. If you hate Margot Kidder, she dies. So there's that. If you like that, you'll see. You want to see Margot Kidder die? Watch it in this. So yeah. Also, John Saxon is here as the lieutenant. I thought he did a good job. It was really interesting seeing him go through this angle of him trying to figure out who this guy is, go through the angles of seeing where the calls are coming from and see him trace them back. Granted, the mystery in that part is already revealed at the beginning, but it's interesting to see the character go through that and see, like, and you get the idea that we know the killer's in the house, but we're afraid, like, we know that he's getting closer and closer to Jess. And just how they did that, I think, really works in this film. I think that really works with the angle that this film was going for, too. So, the acting, I think, is really well done. Some of the characters did need a little bit more to me. Like, John Sachs, I felt he could have added a little bit more screen time. Again, this stupid nose. I hate the sniffling, but I thought they could have done a little bit more screen time, add a little bit more development. I thought they could have had a little bit more development, like make them out to be a little bit more than what they were in the final film. But for what they had to do, I thought they did really well. You could tell they're putting a lot of effort into them. And so a lot of these actors were going to be in bigger and better things. So there's that. But overall, the acting in this film is really well done. How the film is shot, as I said, I think is really well done. And of course, you gotta talk about the main guys. Because how the film is shot on these guys, I think really works out. Billy Shadow, played by Bob Clark, like how he shot it on himself, like on the character of Billy, like when he's walking around, I think really worked. And just how he portrays him in the shadow form, like the parts where you see him and it's shot in like close to his eye, and it's like, and you get that famous tagline, Agnes, it's me, Billy. Oh my god, that scene was so creepy. Or even the part, because throughout the film you hear him say that same thing. You get the idea that at times maybe he was beaten by his mother, and maybe that kind of drove him to the edge. And maybe does he think that the women are his mother or something, and he's so deranged that he sees that. But the reason why I brought up how it's shot again is because that scene just left such an impact on me. Like, when it's up close to him and Nick Mancuso's voice, just that whole thing, Bob Clark shooting, and the two working off that whole aspect, I think really works with the film and definitely adds a really creepy atmosphere to it. And, of course, you gotta talk about the killings. And there's a lot of... Well, I shouldn't say there's a lot of killings, and they're not overly graphic, to say, like, Pieces, or the director's cut of By Blade Valentine, Virus, or even Ghost Ship. They're really more along the lines of, say, a very tame slasher film from around the time. I do think the one kill, a lot of people say this kill on the cover, I think, really sticks out to them. And while that does stick out, there's another one for me that I think sticks out more. It's Margot Kidder's death, where she's sleeping, and there's like this chorus outside, and Jess goes out to look at them. And the killer, Billy, grabs this unicorn statue and holds it above his head and starts stabbing her. And she's screaming, but nobody can hear it because the chorus is outside singing. And she's like reaching over, and you guys see the blood. And it's so creepy. How they did that scene, I think, really worked to the film's potential, and I think really gave it a creepy atmosphere. That whole scene alone, I think, says a lot about this film. The creepy atmosphere, Bob Clark's direction. It's just amazing how they did it. It's creepy, it's moody, even the ending left me shocked. It literally left me shocked. I was chilled to the bone, and if you watch this film too, I think you will feel that same way. So, yeah. The only problem I will say with this film is not really a problem to me, but I could definitely see is that at times the film may seem a little bit slow to some people because it's more of a build-up kind of film. One of those films that you have to sit there and really feel invested in it to really appreciate it. And I think that might throw some people off. On top of that some of the characters could use a little bit more development. Not all, just some, before they go and start that whole fiasco. But other than that, Black Christmas to me is a timeless Christmas classic that I think shouldn't be forgotten by anybody. Not even the people who don't like horror films. If you want to get scared this Christmas and you really want to get into the horror fandom or slasher film fandom, I highly recommend you check out Black Christmas. This is an insanely creepy movie. Definitely one that needs to be watched at least once. This stupid cold, but it's a great movie. Definitely one that I highly recommend you check out. So, overall, I give Black Christmas a 9.5 out of 10, and it deserves it, and it therefore gets my seal of approval. Definitely a fantastic film. Definitely one that will leave you chilling to the bone. This and Strangeland are the two films that have done that, but that's a story for another time. So yeah, check it out. But that's my review on Black Christmas, and next time I'm going to do a review on Rocky. I got Rocky 1, Rocky 2, and Rocky 3, plan to review those. This is actually the case that came in. I didn't show it in my video. Plan to do that. Run 2 and 3, and then we're going to do Rambo, talk about those films. And then this movie, Trading Places, I'm going to talk about those. But anyway, I'll see you guys later. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of Black Christmas. Did you guys find this film creepy? Did you guys find it suspenseful? Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.